Science says only 8% of people achieve their goals. What makes some people successful and others stay stagnant? How do we identify the qualities and skills necessary to elevate our lives? Well, that's what I want to talk about. That's what my energy is all about. My goal is to help inspire people to be their best selves. These conversations will help people identify their best qualities, bring them out, and understand how to develop plans to achieve their goals. I'm Kayla B, and welcome to the Big Boss Energy Podcast. What's up, y'all? It's your girl, Kayla B. Welcome back to Big Boss Energy Podcast, where we talk about all things around developing and building your skills, and whether that is for life, your career, or all things that you're looking to accomplish within your businesses. Let's get into it. This is episode 2. If you're new, welcome to my channel. If you are not, if you're returning, I'd love to see you back. Don't forget to click that like, comment, or subscribe button, and let's get into it. So today, guys, we're going to be talking about sales. We're going to be talking about why it is so important to have sales skills. Whether you are in sales, whether you're not in sales, doesn't matter. It's more so about understanding some fundamental principles about ourselves, and why we can just utilize some of the skills that I think are really important to have in life, whether you are in sales specifically for your career or not. So let's go ahead and get into this episode. So what value can we add as individuals to any situation that we're in? And I think that is something that I've learned in sales. Is kind of like, you don't want to get on the phone with somebody and be wasting their time, right? I'm not reaching out to stakeholders or C-suite executives to be able to waste their time. I'm really here to show up and provide value. So today's episode is going to be a lot of things that I think are really great characteristics you can take from sales to develop yourself as an individual, even if you're not on a sales journey. So when I think of sales, I think of being worthy of something to offer. Whether that's a personal product you sell, a service that you have to offer, whatever that is, how do you show up in a room and assert that value, right? There are a few things that I think that are just really common in today's society. We all get online. We see influencers who are now mastering the art of being able to sell self, right? To be an influencer in this digital age, you have mastered the art of being able to put together content that allows people to see what value you add and provide to a certain niche. And I feel like that can translate into any industry you're in, any room you walk in, right? How do you assert and position yourself when you walk into a room? Do you have the confidence it takes to drive a conversation? Do people typically naturally have to seek you out? And when people ask you certain questions like, what do you do? What are you about? Do you have something prepared to be able to tell people in a clear, defined statement who you are, what you're about, and what value you can add, right? If we're networking with people, this is something we really want to keep in mind. A lot of people reach out to people on LinkedIn or other social media networks, and it's kind of like, what do you have to say? What value do you have to add, right? We're flooded with messages, we're flooded with DMs, and we all know we typically open the messages or engage where there is some type of value that can be added. Whether that is marketing coming into your coming into your emails every day, and you choosing what brands you want to directly engage with, whether they sent a message that resonated with you. But overall, I would say they provided something that is of value to you, whether that was a coupon, whether that was a message saying, on this date, this, group may be meeting in your city, and that is of value to you. Every interaction is transactional. In my opinion, I think there are a lot of genuine interactions that aren't necessarily on the transactional side, but I think if we think about it, everything in life is pretty much a give and take. We look back in the days before there were like monetary things, people would barter, right? So if we lived in a society, I would have to show up with something I can offer, you would have to show up with something you could offer, and we would swap and trade off. So we are exchanging values, we're solving each other's problems, but we're showing up as two people who have something to offer, right? And something that I think that sales really teaches people are a few characteristics. The first to start would be emotional intelligence. I believe that having emotional intelligence allows us to drive and direct our conversations with the people that we're with the people that we're specifically engaged with. What I mean by that is I'm not going to talk to my 4-year-old kid the same way that I am talking to an adult who has a certain level of consciousness, who's able to receive a certain message. But then let's just take that example and then amplify that. Are you going to go talk to, a CEO the same way you're going to go talk to an HR director? Probably not. They have two different goals of how they want to operationalize their day-to-day efforts within their organization. And it's the same thing, even if you're talking to maybe an IT manager at a company, it's going to be a completely different level of conversation than, your CFO, who is really focused on how much does it cost, how can I reduce cost, and what value does this add to the organization? How can we speed up the time that it would take while minimizing cost within the organization? So I think having emotional intelligence really allows you to not only understand people's body language when they're speaking with you, understand how you should communicate. Maybe there's a certain tone, demeanor. That's something I definitely had to work on throughout the years, is how do I engage effectively so people can respond and receive the messages that I'm having? Sometimes it's not about what we say, but how we say it and how empathetic we are to other circumstances that other people may have, or other things that may have went down in their life to where they need to be receptive in a certain way. So I think that from sales trainings that I have been in, one skill that I would always tell people that they should really tap into, strengthening would be emotional intelligence. Work on your emotional intelligence. Go take some tests to understand the type of dominant personality or passive personality that you may have. Do you have, great energy when you work in groups? Are you somebody who needs to work individually? Tap into really trying to understand where you fit in on a scale of how introverted or extroverted you are, the styles of communication you like, and having that intelligence around people's emotions and how you interact with them, I think will take you a long way when it comes to being able to foster really great relationships, connections, and more importantly, have really great conversations. Another skill that I think is really, really important is problem solving. You cannot go through life without being a problem solver. Some people have the mentality that they rather, kind of sit back and have other people always feed them the answers. But I do believe having that knack for curiosity, having that space within you where you're curious, you actually want to learn and grow every day and evolve into something or somebody that can add value, takes being humble at times. And understanding that you can't just always walk away or have things given to you, but you have to kind of seek out that interest around being able to solve problems and really conceptualize problems, take them, internalize them, and figure out effective strategies on how to move past obstacles. This will not only help you in your sales career, your career in general. If you are making that leap from any other career in tech, you will definitely need problem solving skills. It's something I always recommend to everybody. If you're not into that, start to just look into challenges online, look into exercises and activities that may be able to strengthen your critical thinking. How do you go about strengthening the skill of really wanting to be able to think critically, solve problems, and put yourself in position to really not quit? Because I think problem solving also directly comes with, if you're curious and you're constantly seeking out a way to fix a problem, you're probably not just going to give up on it. And I do think being a problem solver is a really, really great skill set that you can utilize whether you are in sales or not. I think another skill, the third one that comes to mind, is self-representation. Earlier, I was talking about how do you walk into a room, assert that confidence, actively add value to whatever conversation, network, room that you're presenting yourself in. I believe a lot of that starts with a natural pitch. And when I say that, I've met so many people and you ask them, hey, what do you do? And they can't answer. Imagine a question that is that personable and you are yourself. And most people really cannot, within 30 seconds, assert and tell you what they do and add value to that. And I think something that we all need, sales or not, is a pitch, a personal pitch. When you walk into a room, and that could be a personal pitch, an elevator pitch, you can go ahead and Google whatever it is that you want to Google around pitches. But why a pitch is so important is because it asserts your value up front in many situations. if I was unconfident about something I was doing or didn't really take it seriously, I don't feel like the receptiveness of that is always people take you seriously. And I think a lot of times, when you are in certain circumstances, you're in certain places or environments, it is really important to keep in mind, especially I feel like if you are networking with high network, um, and not high net worth, high network individuals, I do think being able to pitch yourself puts you in a completely different predicament and position on what people are open to hearing you even say, are being receptive about, because they understand that you understand who you are, you understand what you do, and now you've given them the leeway to see and open up the door to a conversation on if there is any way that you guys can possibly work together, network in a certain way, or do business together in any sense, because they have a general understanding of what you are, what you're about, as well as what you can offer them. And that makes it a lot easier for me to want to talk to somebody. Perfect example of this is, let's say that I was walking into, I don't know, the Delta Sky Lounge. I'm at the airport, or I'm just sitting in a first class flight, and I'm sitting next to somebody who's a business owner. I may not know what they do, I may not know what industry, but within a few minutes, you talk to them and you say, "Hey, I'm Kayla Burke. I'm currently in enterprise sales at Microsoft. On a day-to-day, I pretty much help customers to do X, Y, and Z. Been in this space for X amount of years, and I've had a few businesses as well on the side. What do you do?" It was nothing direct. It wasn't confrontational. It wasn't any of those things where I'm just asserting myself and I'm confident, but I'm just simply stating what I do in an articulate, put together way that I've clearly taken some time to build those words and that flow around. And that will allow somebody, what if they were a business, individual operating their own business and had security needs, and I worked in security. And this has literally happened to me before. It's one of those things where I'm just like, your network is truly determined by the value that you can provide to others within that space, as well as how much you're willing to put yourself out there and really just kind of network and get to it, and be actively into introducing yourself to people and building relationships with people. And I think that relationships and networks go a very long way. I always like to quote, it's not what you know sometimes, it's who you know that can really open up those doors for you and vouch for you. And if you can vouch for yourself, I do think it makes it a lot easier for other people to be able to vouch for you as well. And the sixth skill is people skills. I cannot tell you, especially I think being an African American living here in the Atlanta area, how many service-based businesses I go into and they have no people skills at all. Imagine I've gotten my hair done before in Atlanta, and you're touching my physical hair and scalp and you have not said a word to me. That is weird, okay? That is really weird. I just want everybody to know that is not normal, that you think I'm going to sit down in your chair, you're going to provide a service to me, and you're going to touch on my physical body and not even say anything to me. You need people skills. And one thing I can say proactively is I feel like a lot of Black businesses that I go into, they have no people skills. You have great services. You're able to, market yourself well online. But then when I get into your seat, when I get into your salon, the vibe is off. Energetically, I'm just not into it. I damn near don't even want to pay you for whatever I came here for, because you might have a nasty attitude. You might handle me rough. And it's like, are y'all not aware of picking up on these things, that you're rude, that you're disgruntled? Like, think about going into the Apple store, going to get your iPhone today, and somebody was just disgruntled and nasty. You know what the first thing somebody might do is write a letter, tell the manager, figure out a way they can go get something out of that situation where it's like, your employee was nasty to me and I'm always right. But it's like, why don't we take that and apply it to our personal businesses, our endeavors? One thing I really pride myself on is if I'm doing business with people, or if I'm showing up in a certain way, I want it to be professional. I want it to come off a certain way. I want a certain vibe. I want a certain look. What I don't want is people going around bad-mouthing me, bad-mouthing my personality, or bad-mouthing the fact that I simply don't have people skills. I'm not personable, but I'm in a personable industry. I'm asking people to pay me for the service. And if this is not sales 101, I don't know what is. But my advice would be to a lot of people, You may have a great service or business, but you don't know how to treat people, and that will come back to bite you in the ass 10 times over, because the best marketing is word of mouth. It is word of mouth. Your stuff can wildfire from people just genuinely speaking good about it, and it continuously grows, and people engage and love your brand because of word of mouth. And the same way people can love and engage with a brand because of word of mouth, when things go wrong, I don't know if you guys remember, like years back before, Fashion Nova always used to delay packages. It was like a big thing where people would like get their packages lost, late for weeks. That set a certain reputation where maybe I don't want to go purchase anymore because I'm insured that my package won't arrive on time. And you're guaranteeing me overnight shipping. We're not saying that there aren't issues in the world with our shipping and that we don't delay packages, but if everybody's online talking about that, that power of the masses is way more powerful than the 3 people who may have gotten their packages last week on time. And I think something to just keep in mind is to be critical of your people skills. Be critical of how you interact with people. What reputation do you leave when you walk into a room? And why should they care to engage with you? I think that a lot of times we have to humble ourselves, right? Like, I know people who really think that they should just be able to have access to anything and anyone. And sometimes some people have their energy on reserve because, are you even valuable enough for me to speak to you in a certain way or about certain things? Do you have anything you can provide to me that can show up and help me in a certain sense? Do you just have your hand out? And I think 3 things to really think about when you are making your pitches, when you're thinking about emotional intelligence, how you interact with others, are 1, who are you? What do you have to bring? What do you have to value? 2, what value can I add to other individuals now that I understand the value that I have? What am I doing when it comes to a networking perspective on how am I trying to show up and add this value into somebody else's life that I may potentially be able to work with, do business with, etc. And 3, why should anybody care? Why should anybody care that I'm up here, telling you this? If I didn't have certain, foundations or certain things that people have seen, it'd be kind of uncredible for me to come up here and just give people advice. But because I've built a foundation on my socials around telling people things, they've seen results in my life, they've seen how I've positively helped and affected other people. Now people have given me the space in the room to allow them to be receptive to whatever message I'm putting out. But that took building trust, which is a really another important skill that we all learn in sales. For me to effectively sell something to somebody, I have to gain their trust. I have to gain their buy-in. I have to understand that this individual needs to feel comfortable doing some type of business with me, service with me, etc. So how do I gain that trust? I use my emotional intelligence. I read the body language. I read the room. I'm observative. And a lot of times I just shut up and I listen. I just listen. For me to be able to understand how I can effectively help somebody, sometimes it's not about always saying something. It's just about listening. And one of the best sales skills that I can tell you is active listening. This is something I had to learn. Active listening is really hard. Being able to multitask, take notes, do certain things while listening to individuals is actually a really, really acquired skill. And active listening is very different because you are actively processing what you're hearing, not for defense, not for response, but simply listening to then process what the next move or style of communication should be. And actually, I just learned this and I'm trying to implement this into my life right now. Somebody was just telling me, because I'm working on not responding to everything and everybody. Somebody just taught me that after you hear something, try to take 2 to 4 seconds before you respond. And I'm really trying to implement that because it really does help with active listening. And I think that active listening is really, really an important skill. And I know we've talked about a ton of skills today on this episode of just things that I was thinking of that are really fundamental in all areas of our lives, even outside of sales. But more importantly, I thought this message would be great to share with everyone, simply due to the fact that, whether you're in sales or not, I think these are really great lessons that you can take on self-development, whether you're going into an interview whether you are trying to go into a business deal, being serious about yourself, taking it seriously to assert yourself, show up, add your value in a certain way, to me is a really, really powerful skill. And I think that, like I mentioned earlier, many things, if not almost everything in life, is pretty transactional. So being able to position yourself to add value, to sell your services, to show up in a certain way and light, and have people respect you in a certain way, as well as be open to receiving whatever that you are providing, I think is a really powerful skill that can take anybody very, very, very far in life. So that was kind of what I wanted to share today. I really hope that you enjoyed the second episode. We will be having a guest speaker soon, so that is coming. But for now, I just wanted to keep the fireside chat going and just fill you all up with some positive energy this week. Make sure you're confident, go work on your pitches, figure out ways to tap into really building and articulating yourself as an individual. And I do feel like your businesses, your interactions with people, and anything that you really set out to do when you're communicating and involving a network or a service with other people can be really strengthened. But this is Big Boss Energy. That was episode 2. Love that you've tuned in. If you've stayed this far, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. I can't wait to talk to you all again. And I will be talking with you all soon. I've enjoyed this episode, and be safe. The sky is the limit, and have a great week.